Greetings, Bangers and MASH audience. As always, I am Mr. Bangers, aka Zach, my co-host, sitting right next to me, my buddy, my pal, your friend and mine.
I'm Mr. MASH, aka JD.
What's our topic today, JD, since you came up with it, so if it sucks, it's his fault.
Well, we're going to be talking about Looney characters today, Zach.
Looney characters?
Hot diggity dog characters, too, I guess.
What the fuck are you doing? Say we're doing pop culture mashups.
But that would... okay. We're doing pop culture mashups today, Zach.
What does that mean?
It means Roger Rabbit.
Well, what it really means is we're talking about films and a couple other forms of entertainment that take a bunch of divergent, unrelated characters and stick them all together into one thing. And people who have been listening to the show for a while might say, isn't that pretty much the same thing as the Monster Mash episode you did back in December? My response to that is, yes, exactly like that, except with non-horror characters. So let's start, shall we? Now, when it comes to pop culture mashup movies, I think one really stands up above all the others, wouldn't you say, JD?
I would, yes.
It's kind of the first modern example of this. Maybe the most famous example of this in modern cinema.
We're talking about Roger Rabbit?
Yeah, we're talking about Roger Rabbit. Jesus F.
Today we're going to find out who framed Roger Rabbit.
1988's Who Framed Roger Rabbit. This is a classic.
I was telling Zach earlier that I had a VHS of this movie that I wore out. Finally died 10 years ago.
I, too, watched the film over and over again as a kid. It's really one of those movies that are just burnt into my psyche from overwatching repeatedly. The entire structure of the film is in my brain uncontrollably. It's a really good movie. Have you seen it recently, guys? It's good.
We just watched it today.
And I just have to say, my first thought upon watching this movie again, or the opening cartoon within a cartoon, is why would anybody leave a baby with a rabbit?
You see, Zach, this was the 30s and 40s that this movie takes place in, so parents were just all around bad parents back in the day.
You're saying it was a more naive time when we were allowed to trust our infant children with cartoon rabbits?
Didn't they give them metal toys that had sharp instruments on them to impale themselves on?
And covered in poisonous lead paint?
Yeah.
Exactly. That opening sequence is pretty funny.
Kind of get a Tom and Jerry-esque feel from it.
Very much so. It feels a lot like a classic cartoon from that era. I believe on one of the special features they describe Roger Rabbit as a Tex Avery character in a Disney cartoon.
A reasonable explanation.
He definitely has that Tex Avery style, a very manic, wacky, over-the-top style.
Constantly running around the room on fire.
Eyes bulging out.
A
lot of exaggerated physical comedy.
Constantly moving his arms all around.
And talking like this! Anyway, that was my terrible Roger Rabbit impersonation.
Oh god, was it terrible.
Something this film does that's really clever when it cuts from cartoon to real life at the end of that opening sequence. How the props in the cartoon have this weird, exaggerated, faux deco look when we brought into the live action.
Well, speaking about the transition, it's almost seamless.
Yes, it is. How you go from the cartoon refrigerator to the prop refrigerator, and you have the prop legs of the mom, which I just now noticed tonight for the first time.
I don't understand why you've never noticed that before.
I guess I just never noticed it before.
Pretty sure everybody noticed that. Please, viewers, leave your comment on that part.
Our non-existent viewers.
Yes, our non-existent viewers.
Just from a technical standpoint, this movie is really an overwhelming achievement, how it's pulled off so seamlessly. I can't imagine what they had to go through to make this work.
God, it must have been painful.
Anytime an actor interacts with a cartoon or a cartoon interacts with a prop, what were they working with? I mean, I know in the special features they show this robotic arm for some of the scenes, but a lot of that was just people acting as if they were talking to something that wasn't there. And I guess that's commonplace now when you have actors...
Well, actually, no.
Interrupt me, asswipes.
I am going to interrupt you because you're wrong. They had those foam puppets, remember? That they were, weighted so that they were the approximate weight of what the cartoon character weighed, because apparently a two-dimensional figure with some paint on it weighs roughly 40 pounds.
Yeah, I don't know what the logic is there. Though really, if you want to discuss logic in this movie, you're just going to go off the rails really quick. As I was saying before you interrupted me, he's flipping me the bird right now, audience, is nowadays actors frequently have to interact with CGI figures that aren't there, and they're just looking at either nothing or a tennis ball on a stick or something like that. This was a new concept at the time. The scene that really struck me when we were watching the film this time is when the Weasels are in Eddie's office. They are lifting things and throwing things around, and he's got Roger in the sink, and there's water squirting all over the place. It makes perfect sense on film, and the finished product, it looks great. But trying to imagine that without the cartoons, a guy off screen with a can of compressed air blowing that into the water so it squirts all over the place, or whatever they did, it must have been a pain in the ass to make this movie. But it looks awesome in the final product. Good job, Robert Zemeckis, and and his underpaid interns.
And Steven Spielberg, he produced it.
It was a very expensive movie to make, and it was also getting Disney and Warner Brothers characters together in a film together was an issue. Those studios have been rivals for half a century at that point. This movie is about contrast. It's about the contrast between the film noir atmosphere and the wacky, colorful cartoon characters. It's about a contrast in characters themselves, like Baby Herman, who looks like this cute little baby and is actually this gravelly voiced, heavy smoker, pervert old man. Jessica Rabbit is kind of a contrasting character because she looks a certain way, but that's not actually who she is. That's a theme I picked up in the film tonight, contrast.
I would agree with that.
The plot is taken page for page from Chinatown, which is maybe why this movie is structured so well. Instead of water rights being the real MacGuffin behind the plot, it's highway rights. Also maybe a funny comment on progress and where the country was going in the late 40s, going into the 50s, maybe.
Maybe a tad bit satirical?
Possibly. I think there was probably some satirical intent there, especially with all the jokes about freeway, only a tune would have think of that. That's never going to work. It'll never catch on.
That would be the point that I was making there, Zach. Thank you.
Well, good. I'm glad I could overanalyze and explain that. Let's talk about Roger Rabbit as a character.
I really like him. He's no Bugs Bunny, but he does have his own very funny characteristics. Like every time he says please, he does like that little stutter thing.
Yeah. Please!
Yeah, that one. When he's hiding in the closet.
Yeah.
Right before he handcuffs Eddie.
He has a Dick Tracy chin.
Has a Dick Tracy chin on, and then cocks a half smile, and you can't help but laugh at it. He's funny.
When they're in the back of the bar and Judge Doom is in the front tapping, and Roger's reaction
is, oh my god, I gotta get my fix.
I can't do it. Sort of the thing with cartoon characters. They don't internalize what they're feeling. Everything they feel is exaggerated on. And it's really a testament to the film that Roger isn't annoying. In a film that wasn't as well written or well handled, he probably would have been annoying.
I really think the voice actor for Roger really nailed it. If it was a different voice, it wouldn't have worked as well.
I think the voice is certainly an important contribution, but especially in that first act of the movie where Roger is doing nothing but getting on Eddie's nerves and being a pain in the ass, it's amazing that he still manages to be likable. It has a lot to do with the fact that he's genuinely funny.
It's hard to not laugh at a rabbit.
Rabbits are inherently hilarious, says JD. You know, another contrast is contrasting Roger Rabbit with Jessica Rabbit as far as what those characters look like.
Yeah, definitely.
You want to talk about Jessica Rabbit?
She's hot.
And the
enough said.
Awful, unpleasant, horrible, disturbing thing she stirs in us.
Jessica Rabbit is the reason there are toonies.
Toonies.
If that isn't a real phrase, it is now.
I don't think that phrase exists before now, but it does now. Yeah, I feel like a lot of parents taking their kids to see this movie in the 80s
were like, what the hell?
Fathers probably found themselves with a brand new fetish they weren't aware of, and the mothers were probably like, what the hell? It's not a kids movie. Not really. I mean, there's shootings and murder,
and sexual harassment,
gratuitous cartoon cleavage. It really isn't for young kids anyway, maybe slightly older kids.
There's even gratuitous regular cleavage.
One of the best scenes in the movie is when Eddie first goes into the Ink and Paint Club, and you see Donald Duck versus Daffy Duck on stage.
Oh my god, it's like one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
This was really a movie made for animation nerds, and something animation nerds had argued about for decades before is what would happen in a fight between Daffy and Donald Duck.
The answer is Daffy always wins.
They kind of both lose in this. They both get yanked off screen. From just an animated slapstick perspective, it's hilarious. Wonderfully animated. The animation in this movie is actually quite good.
You think? One thing that I really like, you want to talk about contrast.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that some of the characters you see in a more classically drawn, and then later on when you see them in the movie, they're more modernly drawn.
And you mentioned this while watching the film. I didn't really see it. I didn't see how Bugs and Mickey looked really any different in the middle half of the movie than they did at the very end. That may be so. I don't know.
It is so. Just accept it and move on.
We're going to move on, but I'm not going to accept anything. And watching it now, a lot of the confusion I felt at some of the moments as a kid really came back to me. Patty cake scene. As a kid, I really didn't get that. As a child, do you ever experience something and think, I'll understand this better when I'm older?
No. I just was like, why are they doing that?
I remember watching this as a kid thinking, this is something that will probably make more sense to me when I'm a little older, because right now I'm just kind of confused.
Of course, when you were younger, you were a little bit more sheltered than I was.
I don't know if sheltered is the right word.
I don't know if sheltered is the right word. More things were kept from you than they were. I was 3 years old watching The Exorcist.
That's a good point. Getting back to Roger Rabbit, there are a couple moments in this film, watching it now, that confused me as a kid. And it's not just naughty stuff. Things confuse you as a kid that you look at it now like, well, that makes perfect sense. As a kid, it just confused me.
Like, why is the car talking?
That made sense. All the cartoon stuff I got. Eddie and the female bartender didn't really register. That relationship kind of went over my head as a kid.
In your defense, that is something I've been confused on. Are they in a relationship? Did they get out of a relationship? is it tug and pull, or...
I believe the implication is that they were in a relationship previously, and now no longer are, after Eddie's brother died.
Yeah, but she gets upset when she walks in on Jessica Rabbit.
Well, any woman would be upset by that, because nothing can compare to Jessica. But anyway, it's something that I noticed watching the movie now. In Eddie's office, he hangs his hat and his coat on the Maltese Falcon.
I didn't notice that.
That's kind of cool. The music in this movie is great, isn't it? I'm not going to look this up, because if I'm wrong, I want to earn being wrong, but I'm pretty sure Alan Silvestri, my favorite film composer, did the music for this film. And it's a wonderful score, because it's a film noir score. And the scene that really stuck out to me while watching it now is when Eddie goes back to his office, and he passes out drunk on his desk, and the film does this pan around its office. It pans to all the pictures of him and his brother, and you even see them as little kids with their dad in the circus. What it is taking us through his past, and building on that past in a completely visual, very cinematic form. But what it's also doing is a passage of time, because when the montage is over, it's the next morning. That was really well done. What a smart thing to do, to get that information to the audience in a visual, non-intrusive way, and to also progress time naturally. God damn, I wish I'd thought of that.
Speaking of the score, I was watching some of the special features last night.
Oh boy.
They actually had a jazz band hired to do some of the score, and actually, whenever Jessica Rabbit is on screen, they watched her walk on screen and watched her entrance and played whatever they were feeling for that particular scene, which, in my opinion, made it feel more natural.
And that's a character that I'm sure inspires music in people.
Well, it inspires music in me.
We've talked a little bit about all the main characters except for one, and that's Judge Doom. Judge Doom fucked my shit up as a kid. He was terrifying.
Actually, he kind of terrified me a little bit, too.
The scene where he kills the shoe, the little shoe, oh my god!
He cried when we watched that tonight, ladies and
I
gentlemen.
didn't actually cry, but...
It was a little teary-eyed.
I remember watching it as a child being completely traumatized by this poor, sad, innocent little shoe being tortured. And why? Why does he kill the shoe? There's no reason for him to kill that shoe other than him just being an evil motherfucker. And this is a character who, at the end of the film, wants to destroy Toontown, so he's pure evil.
You're evil!
Absolutely diabolical. JD and I, as we were watching the film, were discussing about how we don't really see Christopher Lloyd in a lot of villainous parts. This is sort of his only villainous turn. I mean, a little bit in Buckaroo Banzai, but this is really his only big villain role. Well, first off, he's great.
Oh, yeah. Gives him a chance to go over the top.
A different kind of over the top than in Back to the Future, though. Cold, calculating supervillain. Speaking of the shoes, when all the shoes fall out, you have those little goose-stepping Nazi boots. What a great little visual gag. Another thing that won't make sense until you're a little older. Roger Rabbit is a real character. He has fears and motivations and complexity, way more complexity than you would expect from a cartoon rabbit. How perfect is Bob Hoskins in this movie?
Oh my god, it was like this role was made for him.
He's incredible. I didn't realize until much later in my life that he was British. He sure doesn't act like he's British. He has the perfect accent and everything.
You even get a tad bit New York in there.
Mm-hmm. And he has this film noir anti-hero at first with the drinking and the racism towards Toons, but the film really gets you on Eddie's side and gets you rooting for him. The movie is almost an 80s buddy cop movie. He's not a cop. I feel like that was the pitch. It's Lethal Weapon, but Danny Glover's a cartoon rabbit.
Oh, it's gonna be Danny Glover?
Yeah, maybe Mel Gibson's a cartoon rabbit. The Weasels are awesome, aren't they?
Yes, the Beatles are awesome.
One more time. Oh, get your blubbering out, you pussy, baby.
Go on, don't worry about me.
The Weasels are great. Oh, God, you want this to get done? This is the kind of chemistry you don't get with other podcast listeners.
That's right.
The Weasels are awesome, right?
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
They're really great designs, and each one has a personality, even though only one of them really has any dialogue, extended dialogue.
Yeah, but I feel like I want to know more about the one in the straitjacket.
I do as well.
How can he spike his hair like that if his hands are all wrapped up in the straitjacket?
What's the Weasel story?
I feel like that is one weak part of the film. We don't really get a whole lot into the...
I don't think it's a weak part at all. I think it's a strength. I think that shows you how well done and interesting the characters are, even minor characters like that, when you want to know more about them. He's just henchman number 6. He's not really all that important, but you look at him, it's like, what's that guy's story? What's the one with the cigarette story? Why?
Well, the one with the cigarette story is that he actually died of lung cancer. Not the last. I think he had lung cancer and then...
Got reincarnated as a cartoon weasel?
No. The reason he died from the laughter is because he was already dying from the lung cancer, and laughter was just a catalyst for the final blow.
Oh, right. Okay, I see what you're saying. All the original cartoons in this movie look like cartoons from that era.
Definitely.
Absolutely, they blend in perfectly.
You can tell.
Watching this movie on Blu-ray, it looks effing awesome on Blu-ray. You can pause any frame in the film with the cartoons in it, and it looks like a goddamn painting. I've said this to JD about 1,000 times tonight, because that's exactly how I feel. You can pause the movie, and you can hang that up on your wall. That's how good it looks. On Blu-ray, the animated characters have a depth and a feel to them, and the whole movie has this texture to it. It's like film, really. I don't know. I'm just nerding out about Blu-ray there.
It's okay, Zach.
The plot has a lot of convenient plot jumps that I'm willing to forgive. Things like Eddie putting his glass of bourbon just over the photograph of Acme right over his will in that exact moment. How convenient. Or when they're in the movie theater, and the newsreel that comes up is about Maroon making a deal with the highway development people. Oh, how convenient that they happen to be there in that exact moment, since that the second plot turn in the second act. You're willing to forgive those sort of things because you don't really notice them unless you've seen the movie a few times.
What upsets me the most about that particular scene, not only do they put it up there blatantly in front of us, they pointed out that that's the plot twist. And Eddie's like, that's it! That's the connection!
I believe he literally says that.
He does. I've seen it twice in 2 days. I got this.
And that's really sort of an important term, because that point in the movie, Eddie is on Roger's side by that point in the film. He's fully over to solving this mystery and doing what's right. And that's really evident in the scene where he has the bottle of liquor in his pocket and throws it up in the air and shoots it with the racial stereotype bullets.
You know, only one of those is a racial stereotype.
I guess just the Indian with the giant tomahawk. That's the moment when he really goes into Toontown for the first time. That's when the cameos from established cartoon characters really go crazy. You want to talk about some of the cameos we spotted while watching the film this time?
Oh god, I don't know if we can name them all.
I actually have a running list written down here. Okay. Dumbo, the hippos and the ostriches from Fantasia, Michigan J. Frog, I'm pretty sure I saw him, the tortoise from Tortoise and the Hare. You first see Bugs Bunny on the animation lot in the very beginning, and of course he shows up again. Chili Billy and Screwy Squirrel are both mentioned by name. Briar Bear from Song of the South shows up a couple of different times. Penguin waiters from Mary Poppins are in the bar, and at the end, of course, Daffy and Donald are obvious. Betty Boop. I don't know who the pelican who keeps falling off his bike is, though. That was the character I couldn't recognize.
I know it's a Looney Tunes character.
Or the octopus bartender in the club, that's a character, and I couldn't place it.
It's gotta be a Betty Boop franchise character.
I'm pretty sure it's from that era. Yosemite Sam has a very entertaining cameo.
He's one of my favorite Looney Tunes anyway.
Yeah, he's awesome. Nothing more likable than an angry madman with a gun.
Since we're talking about cartoons, who's your favorite Looney Tune?
I really like Bugs. I really like Daffy. Those two are probably my favorite.
I really like Bugs, and I really like Daffy, but I think my all-time favorite is Marvin the Martian.
I do like
Marvin
Marvin
I don't know
the Martian.
why, but a Marvin the Martian cartoon really just tickles my funny bone.
I like Sylvester. I like Sylvester more than I like Tweety out of those two. Of course,
yeah, but you can't have one without the other. The Sylvester and Kangaroo ones are pretty funny, but...
yeah, the giant mouse, I like those.
Really, you just can't have one without the other.
And I love Roadrunner. As far as just single cartoons go, those are probably some of my favorites. Anyway, getting back to some of the cameos we noticed. Felix the Cat has an itty-bitty little cameo that is very easy to miss and probably wasn't noticeable until the Blu-ray, but he's actually on the top of the tunnel going into Toontown. There's a little painting of Felix the Cat there. Three Little Pigs show up a couple of times. The Reluctant Dragon has numerous cameos. Jiminy Cricket, the Evil Queen and Snow White, Dopey and the Seven Dwarves show up a couple of times. Mr. Toad has a cameo. Red Riding Hood. This goes on and on. Tweety, Porky, Pinocchio, the Buzzard from Looney Tunes, Olive Oil and Wimpy, though not Popeye, weirdly. I wonder if they couldn't get the rights.
I don't know why they could get the rights to those two, but not Popeye.
And the whole thing with Olive Oil and Wimpy you could totally miss, but you need a DVD freeze frame button for that, because in silhouette on the train at the very end of the movie, that's pretty much the only way you'd notice that. He's agreeing with me.
Oh, sorry, I forgot you guys can't see my motions.
Peter and the Wolf, Mickey and Minnie, Roadrunner, Goofy, Bambi, Sylvester, the Harp from Mickey and the Beanstalk, Foghorn Leghorn, Speedy Gonzales, the Green Parrot guy, Three Caballeros, Jose, whatever his name is, Woody Woodpecker, Marvin the Martian, the Sheepdog, the Giant Mouse, Tinkerbell, Pegleg Pete, and this movie was made for DVD, so you could stop and look at all the fucking cameos.
Before DVDs were thought of.
Yeah, exactly. Getting back to the film proper. Of course, that scene with Bugs and Mickey, that's another dream. If Donald and Daffy in the scene together made all the hardcore animation nerds cream their panties for seeing this movie, I think getting Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse on screen together probably was the finishing move there, the killing blow.
Yeah, although I will say, I feel like Mickey was a little out of character, I think.
I agree, but it's okay. I could totally see Mickey and Bugs going on vacation together.
I mean, I could see them chumming around, but I feel like Mickey wouldn't prank Eddie as he was falling. He would actually hand him a parachute.
I think you're right, because Mickey is a big softy.
Maybe Bugs said, hey, I got this one, just go along.
It's cool. Give it to him. Benny the Cab is great, and that whole sequence is pretty awesome. The chase. Climaxing with the rotoscoping tires. Fun stuff. You want to talk about the offending frame? This was something of an urban legend for many, many years, and once the internet became a thing, in the VHS copies, supposedly, when the cab hits the light and Eddie and Jessica go spinning off of the cab, her dress flies up and you can see her nether regions. Now, I've seen the offending frame, and personally it just looks like shadows to me. I don't see anything. Nevertheless, I believe it was censored in the DVD release, so smartasses couldn't freeze it and say, oh, you can see the cartoon pussy. I don't know if that's true or I guess it's possible an animator could sneak something naughty in there like that. It's happened before. I don't really buy into it.
I would actually buy into that. I mean, you said it's not meant to be a kid's movie, and it's not like it was Daisy Duck flying across there with her nether region.
Because that wouldn't be hot at all.
It wouldn't be.
Unless you're a dirty furry.
Wouldn't that be a feathery?
Speaking earlier to Roger's complexity, at the end there, when he confronts Judge Doom with the gun, whoa, shit just got dark.
Tell him about the brick joke.
The brick joke, oh my god. This is shit you don't notice until later in life. Okay, for those audience members not up to date with screenwriter parlance, a brick joke is a setup introduced early in the film or book or TV or whatever, and not paid off until late in the film, book, TV show, what have you. At the beginning of the film, when the refrigerator falls on Roger's head, the director criticizes him for not being able to create stars over his head. In the last act of the movie, the weasels drop a heap of bricks on his head. He then is able to produce stars. It is a literal brick joke. That made me laugh way more than it should have.
Way more.
A writer wrote that joke.
Really? Hold on, you're shitting me, right? Like
no,
a writer wrote that joke.
A screenwriter.
A screenwriter?
A guy who writes for screens. At the very end, Roger and Jessica being slowly lowered to their deaths. But why didn't the bad guys tie up Eddie?
Because maybe they didn't view him as a threat.
That leads into maybe the best scene in the entire movie. Maybe. When he finally cuts loose and does his dance sequence, which is a tour de force performance from Bob Hoskins. Was he nominated for an Oscar for this movie? I don't think so. He should have been.
He should get a Lifetime Achievement Award for that movie.
Well, that's that sequence with the dancing and the singing and the slapstick. Oh, it's revelatory. Watching it now especially, I could appreciate the craft that went into it and how well done and awesome that sequence is.
And it looks even better in Blu-ray.
It does. The reveal of Judge Doom as an evil toon. I guess since you've already established that you were a jaded, cynical child, that didn't freak you out, but that freaked me out as a kid.
I mean, that's kind of freaky.
When he gets run over by the steamroller, that's unpleasant. But then he gets back up and inflates himself, and his eyeballs pop out, and he has knives for eyes, and this crazy demon voice. It's, what the fuck is going on, movie? This took a turn for the sinister. It's both funny and evil.
Maybe.
It really takes this idea of the evil toon, and that scene generates legitimate suspense somehow, when he's got Eddie pinned down with the giant cartoon buzzsaw.
Well, that's because he can make it bigger at will.
Judge Doom gets 2 awesome death scenes.
Yes, yes, he does. He also gets one of the coolest resurrections I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's fair to say we both like this movie a lot.
I'd say so.
It's my favorite Robert Zemeckis movie. I like it better than Back to the Future, and that's coming from somebody who likes Back to the Future quite a bit.
I like it better than Back to the Future.
Now, did you know this movie was based off a book?
No.
The book was called Who Censored Roger Rabbit by Gary Wolfe. The book was very different from the movie. Just to give you an idea, first off, instead of being cartoon actors in animated films, they were instead actors for comic strips. A big difference is Jessica is traditional evil femme fatale in the novel. She started out as a Tijuana Bible tune actress, which means porn, and there were a lot of differences involving the characters and the results. They really changed the movie a lot. Most people seem to agree the movie's better than the book, but it's an interesting curio to find out there's this darker, grittier version of Roger Rabbit out there. A film came out last year that was, in many ways, considered the modern answer to Roger Rabbit, though handling a different subject. Not classic cartoons, but classic video gaming. And I'm talking about Disney's Wreck-It Ralph.
It was alright.
Going into this film, it didn't sound particularly inspired. Oh, a villain decides to go on a quest of redemption. Sort of a been there, done that feeling. But the movie slowly wins me over. The first act is a little slow. It starts off great, because the arcade is really cool. This little arcade the movie is set in has its own little universe, and I like how they all can cross over. I think the Surge Protector being a train station is a particularly inspired move. Really good visual gag. They really got a good handle on 8-bit sound and 8-bit visuals. You can tell these guys spent a lot of time playing Donkey Kong and original Mario Brothers.
Definitely. They even move a lot like they're in 8-bit.
Yeah, exactly. The characters in the Fix-It Felix cabinet have that stiff 8-bit fashion of moving. And I really like John C. Reilly's voiceover immediately. He has that perfect voice for this kind of character. Downtrodden, sort of snarky.
I would agree.
But an example of how the first act is a little disappointing is the bad guy self-help group probably read hilariously on paper. And I bet if the scene hadn't been played to death in all the trailers and commercials, I would have thought it would be hilarious too.
Yeah.
It's a really, really funny premise, and I'm sure if I hadn't been completely familiar with it already, I would have thought it was really funny. They basically sold the whole damn movie with that sequence.
It was pretty funny when he's thinking about becoming a good guy. Bowser vomits fire, and
the orange goes from Pac-Man.
he turns into the blue, running away from Pac-Man guy.
Kano tears a zombie's heart out. Surprised that got in a Disney movie.
It was purple.
It wasn't a living being, so it's okay.
It wasn't red, so we're good.
The scenes where Ralph goes into the Funlander building,
Nicelander.
whatever. It goes into the Nicelander building and alienates everybody during the party. They're pretty predictable. Standard Act 1 stuff, setting up his motivation throughout the rest of the film. But the movie gets better as it goes along. The hero's duty sequence, spot-on parody of first-person shooters, wouldn't you say?
I would say.
Though I've never seen a first-person shooter arcade machine like that, anyway.
Yeah, you have.
Well, I've seen ones like Time Crisis and House of the Dead, but never something like Halo or Gears of War, which is clearly what this is a parody of.
Yeah, but they're trying to tie all into one. But speaking of that game, Jane Lynch's character.
Yes, Jane Lynch is really good. Well, she spits out this hilarious, ridiculous dialogue, bites into every line like a pro.
Oh, yeah.
Phantom Award-nominated performance from Jane Lynch.
Tell that character was pretty much modeled after.
Pretty clearly modeled after her established persona, which is okay. It's okay to do that. The film, I feel, gets really good once they get to the Sugar Rush setting. First off, that's a really cool setting, isn't it? JD said to me, I want to play this game.
Sadly, yes.
It's okay, it's not a game for little girls, it's a racing game, it's cool.
It's a racing game basically based in Candyland.
It's a whole bunch of candy puns, and they shouldn't be as funny as they are, but they are for some reason.
Cops or donuts. And
the Sour Ball character speaks like this.
half the audience is Jolly Rancher looking characters, and
it shouldn't be that amusing, but it is for some reason. Laffy Taffy, Ness, Quicksand. This is all hacky, awful punning, and yet it works somehow. And visually, that sequence looks amazing. It's so colorful and bright.
Yeah.
But I feel like the film starts to pick up in that sequence because it introduces this interplay between the Ralph character and the Vanellope character, and they have this great back and forth that eventually becomes the emotional core of the movie.
Well, I tell you, I feel like Vanellope is the strongest character.
Really?
In my opinion. Liked her character more overall than the rest of them. But Jane Lynch just comes in a close second.
My main thought on this film is that it doesn't really do anything new, yet it works anyway. The relationship between Ralph and Vanellope are kind of an example of that, because, these two outsiders find each other and come to depend on each other. That's something we've seen a million times before. But it comes off as really charming and great, and that's mostly because John C. Reilly and Sarah Silverman have this great chemistry together. I feel like they had to have recorded their voiceover together. I don't know, maybe not, but I feel like that's something that had to have happened. I mean, how do you feel about Sarah Silverman in general, as a comedian?
Overall, I could go either way. I mean, sometimes she's funny, most of the time she's not.
Her show was okay, the Silver Cerumen program, I believe it was called, but generally I find her shtick of, I'm a cute girl that says offensive things, to have a pretty short fuse there. You couldn't really get a lot of material out of that.
I really liked her in this movie. I think that role was very well suited for her acting ability.
Once again, this concept of these two misfits coming together and redeeming each other is expected, but what isn't expected is that the friendship is actually kind of touching. It's sort of sweet. You end up rooting for both characters.
And they're at the end when they're calling each other names.
They're like siblings. It's like a big brother and a little sister.
Pretty cool.
It's really cute. And the scene where Ralph destroys her cart,
I just feel like he's ripping your heart out.
It kind of got to me.
And I really like how she chose to not be the princess. She decides to still be the glitch.
Yeah, she wants to be herself. She comes to accept her flaw.
But she's also president.
That scene where he destroys the car maybe takes the drama a little too far, but I don't know. It works.
You had to have that really big, strong turning point to get those two to separate so she could get kidnapped, so he would have to save her.
That's screenwriting 101. Making the climax this big race was a really smart decision. There are a few things more naturally exciting than a race. Making that the final set piece of the movie was pretty smart thinking, I'd say. We haven't talked any about Felix, who shouldn't be a likable character, and yet he is. I feel like in a more simplistic cartoon, he would have been a two-dimensional bad guy.
Honestly, before I saw the movie, I was expecting him to be the makeshift bad guy, because he's the good guy in the video game, but in the real world, he's kind of a dick.
It would be the switcheroo, but he's not a dick. He's actually a really nice guy.
Damn, I really wanted to hate that guy.
And something that I think is actually one of the most interesting aspects of this movie is how Felix and Colonel Colhan develop this romance romance. And it leads to some really funny moments, and something that's sort of weird. I said to JD, I think this is the first openly BDSM relationship in a kid's movie. These two are going to inspire some really kinky fanfiction. The scene where she's beating him, and he's like, no, it's cool, it's okay.
Smacking himself in the hammer, trying to fix himself.
Yeah, I feel like this is gonna...
And it also supports voyeurism.
Okay, now you're reading too much into it.
No, because they're doing it to make the Laffy Taffy that's over a butt.
So not only does he get off on getting the shit beat out of him, but he gets off on people watching him get the shit beat out of him. What do you think about the villain, King Candy?
There's been better Disney villains.
Agreed. Obviously. The way the character develops is an interesting thing. He gets progressively darker and more evil as the movie goes on. At first he just seems like this goofy character, but then suddenly he's the conspirator, and then at the very end he's like a legitimate evil force.
You know how the movie should have gone?
How should the movie have gone?
It should have been Wreck-It Ralph, Fix-It Felix, and Sonic the Hedgehog, and Pac-Man.
Should have been the League of Extraordinary video game characters.
Yes, and Pong was the supervillain.
Pong is breaking through the dimensional barriers.
Yes.
The Pong paddles are sick of being underappreciated, and now they're out for blood.
Right, you got it.
Overall, I was kind of surprised that the last act of the movie goes a little darker than you'd expect. The cyber bugs and Ralph diving into the volcano. I didn't really see that coming. It works.
Oh my god, he's going to make it through?
And overall, my general opinion of the movie is that it's incredibly likable despite
Game over, man!
Game over! Game over, man! They're fucking insects, man! They can't think! My overall opinion of Wreck-It Ralph is it is incredibly likable despite not doing a single new thing. Sometimes using an expected formula can produce very satisfying, entertaining results. Now, you want to talk about the video game cameos?
Well, Sonic the Hedgehog.
I gotta tell you, as a lifelong Sonic nerd and almost as long Sonic apologist, seeing Sonic and Eggman up on screen together in like real animation in a movie, I squeaked out, I'm not gonna lie. I was 5 again, putting it at the screen going, eee! Q*bert is actually, well, not a main character, but he's sort of an important supporting character. But Q*bert's really funny. There's that wonderful, my Q*bertese is a little rusky.
The AA meeting with the supervillains.
Yeah, well, you've got Bison in there. M. Bison from Street Fighter.
You've got Zangief.
Zangief from Street Fighter.
Blinky.
Whatever, the orange ghost from Pac-Man.
You know, the zombie from House of the Dead.
Zombie from House of the Dead. Kano.
And some ninja who I say is a ninja from, which I'm almost certain is like Noob Saibot or Smoke.
I don't think it's from Mortal Kombat. I think it's just meant to be a generic ninja character.
I think they're all supposed to be...
Well, no, not all of them. Like, I know the green floating eyeball thing is not anything particular. I am almost 100% certain that's meant to be a takeoff on the floating eyeball demon from Doom, but not officially. Well, there's a blue-skinned, sexy elf, evil queen character. When I first saw the trailers, I was certain that was the Dark Queen from Battletoads. It's not. And maybe it's meant to be a World of Warcraft character, which is what JD suggested. Oh, and the purple rhinoceros, that's from Altered Beast. That's the final boss from Altered Beast.
Anyhow.
And there's a robot, too. Anyway, there's that. I'm probably a bigger Street Fighter fan than you, but you're a Street Fighter fan.
Mm-hmm.
And it was cool to see Cammy and Chun-Li and Ryu and Ken in extended scenes. That was pretty cool. Dig Dug is in the movie. So it's similar to Roger Rabbit, though JD was a little disappointed that the whole movie wasn't like that.
I think it would have been better if it was...
Maybe, but I don't know. I think using original settings was the right decision, but it was cool to have Tapper and all of these cameos. Sonic actually has dialogue. That was another thing that blew my mind. I knew Sonic had a cameo. He talks! Oh my god! He delivers plot-relevant information. I actually liked Wreck-It Ralph quite a bit. Way more than I was expecting to like it. I feel like Disney is on a roll here. Princess and the Frog was really good. Tangled was quite good. Winnie the Pooh was pretty good. This is quite good. Looking forward to Frozen this year. I'm actually getting kind of excited for Frozen.
Play the sweet new game only at Lickwax Arcade on Route 83, offering 4 free quarters on your birthday. Proof of birthday required.
Going back in time. You know, there's a lot of Bugs Bunny in this episode.
There is, because he's awesome.
We should have just called this the Bangers and Mash show featuring Bugs Bunny. The next thing we're going to talk about is a considerable step down in quality from either of those things. We're children of the 90s. Being nerds, it's fair to say we have weakness for nostalgia.
I'd say, yeah.
When I was young, we didn't own official tapes of a lot of things. We just recorded everything off of TV. Yes, I was video pirating before it was cool, kids. And I had a tape, it wedged in between about 4 episodes of Dinosaurs and the Garfield Christmas special, was Cartoon All-Stars to the Rescue!
Are we really going to talk about
We're going to talk about this. Do you want to explain what Cartoon All-Stars to the Rescue is, JD?
It is basically the Smurfs, Alvin and the Chipmunks, Garfield, Alf.
I'd forgotten Alf was in it.
You guys remember Alf, alien life form?
You remember Alf? He's back. And anti-drug form.
Winnie the Pooh.
And Tigger, briefly. Michelangelo, dude!
It's basically any popular cartoon from the late 80s, early 90s against drugs.
What are they doing? They're trying to get one kid off of drugs.
And Bugs Bunny makes cameo.
More than a cameo.
And the Muppet Babies.
Kermit and Piggy and Briefly Gonzo show up. While watching this today on YouTube, which is the way this shitty half-an-hour cartoon special is meant to be seen, in pixelated, lagging YouTube form. We comment on the fact that Baby Animal was not in it, and he should have been.
He should have been. He should have been dressed up as Darth Vader. And then he could have said, if you keep smoking marijuana,
fun times go bye-bye!
You're gonna have to wear this Darth Vader helmet so you're able to breathe. Because it's going to destroy your lungs. Although, in all honesty, that would probably tell people to go out and do pot. Because who wouldn't want to wear a Darth Vader
I feel like this entire special did more to encourage children to do drugs. I don't know if I want to say I was disappointed in this, but I was hoping it would be like a really, really funny, hilarious, and stupid, and it was those things. But honestly, it was mostly weird and off-putting.
They probably should have made it like an hour-long special.
No, I feel like it probably should have been 10 minutes shorter. Now, the thing that's really unlikable about this film, aside from it just being stupid and hackneyed and ridiculous and ham-fisted, is George Bush Sr. did not care about poor people. Kids living in affluent, upper-middle-class, suburban neighborhoods were not the ones that were doing crack cocaine. And I bet if the poor inner-city kids, who were the ones getting hooked on drugs at a young age, if Winnie the Pooh appeared to them and told them to stop, they probably would not give a shit.
Most likely.
And I always feel like this is sending the message to kids, hey kids, do drugs so your favorite cartoon characters will talk to you.
Didn't some kind of famous composer write the music?
Yes, Alan Menken and Howard Ashman, the guys who did the music for The Little Mermaid and The Lion King and Aladdin, all of these benchmark Disney animated features, did the fucking music. When we first started watching this, JD said, are they going to stop him from doing drugs with a jaunty tune? At the end of the special, what do? They all start singing. They get him off of crack with a jaunty tune.
The sister hugs him and says, you can't quit on your own. You need help. Talk to mom and dad. And then he throws the talking smoke cloud.
Oh god, we haven't talked about the talking smoke cloud. Now drugs as a collective concept is symbolized in this film by a character named Smoke, this talking cloud of purple smoke, voiced by George C. Scott, who sounds like a rapist. Always talks like, ooh, yeah, crack, that'll be good, yeah. It sounds like he's masturbating furiously in the...
I don't know that I would have gone that far, but...
And that's something that only exists in late 80s, early 90s, just so you know, anti-drug PSAs, overly aggressive drug dealers, because in real life, generally people will not be knocking on your door at 3 o'clock in the morning. Buy these drugs! Hey, you should try this stuff, man, it's real, it'll make you cool! Man, smoke this pot. In this movie, pot is a gateway drug. Pot, crack. Immediately jumps from pot to crack. No cocaine, no LSD, no. If you smoke one marijuana cigarette, you are going to become a crackhead. I don't really think the kids on the playground were like, hey man, smoke this shit, it'll make you cool, man. In my experience. Maybe we were hanging out with the wrong people.
90% of the special is a dream sequence.
It's a journey into the inner mind.
He was having a pot dream, ladies and gentlemen.
Was he though? Because then Smoke Cloud is actually there, and all the critters jump onto the poster at the end of the episode.
That's all one big acid trip to me, dude.
The roller coaster with the Muppet Babies. He's in a hell carnival at one point, and he's drowning, and there's Tigger in a boat going by, and it's Tigger, asswipe, save him! No, man, you can't save some people.
There's this one part where he's in the House of Mirrors.
Yes, and he's like, I look great, and now it's like, no, man, you don't look cool.
And he goes, you look like this, then.
And it's a zombie. He's the living dead.
And he goes, who's that? And Alf goes, well, it ain't Freddy Krueger.
We both said at almost the exact same time, where the fuck is Freddy Krueger? Going on a journey into the psyche here. Freddy Krueger should show up.
Yeah, if Freddy Krueger showed up, some motherfuckers would quit doing drugs.
Elm Street 3 might as well be an anti-drug PSA.
Yeah, true. True that.
This thing, it's just enormous miscalculation. I can't imagine this dissuaded anybody from doing drugs. Unless they are somebody who wasn't going to do drugs anyway.
And that's what the government wasted millions of dollars.
It looks great. The animation for late 80s, early 90s animation looks awesome.
It has all those different copyrights they had to...
Oh, yeah. Well, obviously, all of these various Disney...
Warner Brothers,
Hanna-Barbera... never would have gotten together unless it was for charity, for a good cause. Huey, Dewey, and Louie are in this, which immediately caused a rousing rendition of the Ducktales theme song from Us.
Ducktales!
Woo!
Go on.
Life is like a hurricane here in Duckburg. Something monsters, airplanes. It's a duck blur. Might solve a mystery or rewrite history. Ducktales. Woohoo! I haven't seen the show recently.
For God's sake, turn it off! Turn it off!
Speaking of nostalgic things that don't match up to your memories, want to talk about Space Jam a little bit?
I like Space Jam.
I haven't seen it since I was a child. But when you were a kid, this was a big movie. We were probably 7, 8 years old when this came out. And I remember seeing the film and being incredibly disappointed in it. Thinking back on it now, I don't know why I was excited. I was excited because I got wrapped up in the type machine they make to draw in 8-year-olds. I don't care about basketball. I've never been into sports, so I don't know why I gave a shit about basketball.
I gave a shit because it was Bugs Bunny. It was Looney Tunes versus Monstar.
The aliens. I gotta tell you, I've not seen this movie since I was 7 years old, probably. And I remember not liking it. I remember the animation being great on the Looney Tunes, looking awesome. And I remember Michael Jordan not being a particularly convincing actor. Nobody saw that one coming.
I don't watch the movie for Michael Jordan.
I remember...
If you're going to go into it thinking, this needs to be a good movie...
I mean, I was 8 years old, dude. I was 8 years old. But what do you expect any movie to be when you're 8?
Well, knowing you...
I didn't turn into a critic until I was at least 10.
Yeah, but it was still there.
I remember being pretty underwhelmed by the movie. I remember this feeling it went on too long and it didn't really hold my attention. All the hardcore Looney Tune fans hate this movie. It 90'd up these classic characters in their opinion, and they all hate Lola Bunny.
I like Lola Bunny.
Are you a furry?
No.
That is the character that launched 1,000 furries. And I feel like they put that character in there for Jessica Rabbit thing to appeal to the dads, even though most dads probably are not going to get turned on by a cartoon rabbit.
Well, no, the reason I like Lola Bunny is because she's Bugs Bunny's girlfriend. Bugs Bunny has to have a girlfriend.
Whoa. No. For my opinion, they were never actually boyfriend-girlfriend. They had a will they or won't they. The fucking cartoon rabbits had a will they or won't they.
Yeah, but in the Looney Tunes universe now, they're boyfriend and girlfriend.
Lola Bunny's still around? I thought she would have been dropped in the Scrappy Pit.
She's in the new Looney Tunes show, and she's Bugs' girlfriend.
Oh, really? I've only seen a couple of episodes.
And, like, Daffy has a girlfriend now.
What the fuck is this shit? Daffy's an asswipe. Nobody likes Daffy.
Fuck you! Daffy is awesome!
He is awesome. I'm saying none of the characters in universe like him.
Daffy's awesome.
He's popular.
Take it back.
Daffy is awesome. He's popular with fans for the exact same reason he's not popular with the characters in the show. Let me clarify. Don't jump down my throat, Hoss.
I'll kick your ass over some Daffy, okay?
I think I have to rewatch this movie because things keep compelling me to do it. I was in the dollar store about 3 weeks ago, and they were selling Space Jam earrings. These things have been sitting in a storage house for about a decade, and they were faded, and the gold print was chipping.
Space Jam, though, is one of those movies that
signifies you grew up in the 90s.
It didn't have a very successful release.
I believe it underperformed, yes.
Nowadays, it has like a cult following.
Well, it has a nostalgic factor there. Everybody seems to agree the movie's terrible.
It's not a good movie, but I enjoy it because I get to see all kinds of crazy Looney Tunes stuff. What if the Looney Tunes played basketball?
Yeah, what if? What if they were locked in battles to the death?
I wouldn't watch that.
They did that, the Extreme Tunes, or whatever it was called. Lunatics, that's what it was, and everybody hated that shit.
That's because they changed the characters all around.
Okay. Before we close the book on this unfortunate chapter, I remember reading in Disney Adventure magazine, they were working on a sequel to Space Jam called Spy Jam, where the Looney Tunes would have teamed up with Jackie Chan.
I would have watched it.
And this was during Chan mania of the mid to late 90s when Jackie Chan was suddenly this huge phenomenon.
I would watch that.
I don't know whatever happened to that. I remember memory of reading that in Disney Adventure magazine more than I remember the fucking movie. I'm going to show JD something, and when we return, we won't be the same.
We've got balls! Whoa!
Sure do. This place is a mess.
Mess? You're worried about a little mess?
God, that was awful.
Okay, JD, what did we just watch?
Foodfight.
Foodfight! Exclamation point. Now, let me explain to people who don't know what this movie is. Somebody said, hey, you know what was great in Toy Story, where they had a bunch of pre-existing character brands together? The people who made that movie made so much money. You know what we should do? We should spend millions of dollars to make a film that is like that, but uses marketing mascot characters. Now, not a terrible idea, a completely mercenary, deeply cynical idea, but not an awful idea. But what happened is this movie was made in 2007. The computers containing the animation stolen, and they had to start over completely from scratch. Finally, after many years of development hell, Foodfight the movie was released.
I just have nothing to say.
It's some of the worst animation I've ever seen in my life. I was just saying that a PlayStation 1 can generate better graphics than this. It's a barrage of incredibly inappropriate sexual innuendos for children. The plot is Casablanca, but with Dex Dogtective. You can't really describe food. Characters move stiffly. Nobody has fingers that move. Barely. And I think like the main character's fingers move. All the background characters have stiff robot arms. JD's just looking at me with contempt.
Let's end this.
If Roger Rabbit is at the top of the pop culture mashup, I feel Foodfight is the retarded inbred cousin that they keep locked up in a box
and repeatedly set on fire.
As you watch this, your emotions go from amazement, oh my god, I can't believe what I'm watching, to hilarity, oh my god, this is just so fucking bizarre, it's hilarious. hilarious, to anger,
to pain.
You run the gamut watching Food Fight. It really is a journey into the soul. That's it for tonight's episode of the Bangers and Mash Show. I hope you enjoyed this topic. We threw this together literally in one day. This was not planned very well. But is anything on the show planned well?
The name.
You can email us at bangersandmash88@yahoo.com. That's the letter N instead of the word and. bangersinmash88@yahoo. We have a Facebook page. Like us. We like you. Signing off, I am Mr. Bangers, a.k.a. Zach, my co-host,
Mr. Mash, a.k.a. JD.
We hope you enjoyed this episode.
That's all, folks.